My name is Rochelle, and this is my PowerPoint on differentiated instruction. What is differentiated instruction? Differentiated instruction builds lessons, develops teaching, and allows teachers to vary their approach. Allows students, no matter at what level they are starting from, to be able to learn the content effectively and according to their needs. How do teachers differentiate instruction? Teachers design lessons to address groups of students, but they need to know their students in terms of readiness, interests, learning profiles, and these all pertain to also the content, the process, and the product. So readiness refers to the knowledge and skill level and can be evaluated by examining the results of tests, examining work samples, or self-reports. Interests refer to topic skills or activities that the students are interested in and what inspires them. How to figure out what their interests are might be that you do quizzes, maybe get to know you activities within the classroom. The learning profiles refers to the student's preferred method of learning. Do they learn better hands-on? Do distractions make it harder for them to concentrate and learn the content? Do they prefer working in groups? These are all learning profiles. To determine what fits them best would be just by observing them, and again, questionnaires might be helpful. So we use the readiness, the interest, and the learning profiles to find students' content, knowledge, and then the process would be which activities help them master that content. The products would be what students use to demonstrate their learning. But you always have to remember that we can't have an effective learning environment without the rules, procedures, and respect for others. So differentiating content, process, and product might be difficult, and it may not be a positive outcome. So some tips would be maybe quiet spaces for your work environment. Maybe they like working together. So those are some of the environments where you have to make sure that you understand what your students' best interests are when it comes to the learning environment and take into account each individual. How to prepare for differentiated instruction for students and the classroom. As you see here, I have a really cool picture of a setup of a classroom that shows us some of the areas that pertain to how to set up your classroom. So how to prepare for students. You need to be able to set aside some time to discuss what differentiated instruction is. You need to let the new students know that we care for them and how each classmates are alike and each of them are different. Explain to students that everyone learns differently and we will find their learning styles together. Let them know that they will be challenged, that not everybody will be working on the same assignments, and that it will be more student-led activities than teacher-led activities. You also probably need to discuss how the grades are determined within differentiated instruction. So some other things for the classroom to prepare for would be place the teachers' desks out of the way. Students' desks should be in groups of 4 to 8. Where to place where you need to place the storage materials within the classroom. As you see, if you go through this diagram over here, it kind of has it shows you where to place materials, where to put the teacher's desk, how the students' tables are all grouped. Some other things you might consider is what storage materials are needed, like storage bins, how to label places to get materials turned in, maybe some folders for your materials as well, your homework assignments that need to turn in, or the forms that materials they need to get for the activity. You also need to have, like we said in the previous slide, rules and procedures, and you need to set your expectations. You need to be able to know how to maintain noise level, transition, your time between activities or for activities, and what materials are needed for the activity. What does differentiated instruction look like in a classroom? Well, for differentiated instruction to work, it is beneficial for teachers to collaborate with others in the school or the district who are doing the same. If everybody's on the same page, then you have more resources and maybe more help into introducing differentiated instruction into your classroom. Some ways to get started are you can select one subject area to start with, select the easiest class to start with, do only one activity, and start working in small groups. Use low prep versus high prep activities. Some examples of low prep activities would be working in pairs, small groups, or alone. Give them choices of the books to read. So we want to start with the low prep first. Some high prep activities would be more like tiered activities, compacting, tic-tac-toe, learning contracts, and interest centers. So definitely start with the low ones if you're first beginning out, is what I have read. This is classroom practices. Oh, common classroom practices. You see my picture there. It says, "I know you're excited as I am about today's lessons." As you notice, all the children are snoozing away. So why these are not examples of differentiated instruction and what we can do differently. Delivers instruction primarily by lecturing. Well, delivering instruction primarily by lecturing is not an example of differentiated instruction because listening to lectures may not reach all the students' levels of learning and should be broken down into readiness, interest, and contents. Readiness, interest, and learning styles. Not everybody learns by just listening to a teacher talk or write on the board. It's a better way, or not maybe a better way, but might be able to introduce the more interactive learning environment so the students are more engaged in the activity. Groups students at the beginning of the year based on their previous year's achievement test scores. Grouping students based on previous year's test score is not a good example of differentiated instruction because grouping them this way throughout the whole year would limit the class to learn from different groups. You may want to start out this way on a content to see or to get a deeper input from certain groups on the content that you're learning, and then while others can work on tasks, and then the teacher could break the groups up as the week goes on and allow the students to work in groups who have the same interest. Sorry. Last question. Gives bonus points for classroom participation. Giving bonus points for classroom participation is not an example of differentiated instruction because it doesn't, to me, it doesn't supply a positive reinforcement to every student. And in fact, it could cause a negative participation from students who have no answers to questions. Instead, maybe get the class to participate. Use groups. Let them discuss the questions together, and then they can determine who can speak at the table after they have all of their information gathered on how to answer that question. And then maybe this teacher can take turns calling on different groups for the rest of all the questions for the rest of that assignment. That is the end of my slide. Thank you.